Hello and welcome to Breaking Bread, the place that brings people together around the table. And today we're joined by Dubai-based artist Sacha Jafri. Sacha, thanks for joining me today.
Good to see you.
You know, Sacha, you're known for your mega projects.
Yeah.
Art of Humanity, largest canvas in the world. You sent artwork to the moon.
Yeah.
You've done things with UNESCO. So you really look at those mega projects that are gonna, I'll say, make headlines, whether that's your intention or not.
Yeah.
But you're a London boy, and I want to go back to your days in London.
So I was actually brought up in a little village next to Windsor, which is like 20 minutes from London, in a place called Virginia Water. And I went to school in Windsor, and then I went to Eton. In Eton.
When did you ultimately decide to become an artist?
So that's an interesting one. So, I'm at Eton. I think I'm 17, 18, right?
This is a boarding school.
This is a boarding school. It's a very serious school, right? This is Eton College. It's like, you can't get much more serious. I'm 17, 18, and the headmaster calls my parents in to the office. That doesn't happen, right? You might get called in by the housemaster, but not the headmaster.
Unless you do something really bad.
It's a major thing, right?
Yeah.
This does not happen. So he calls both my parents in and me, and sat there in this classroom that's from like the 16th century, right? All, wooden panels. I think it's Henry II who founded Eton, like in 1560 or something. So we're really old, right? And I'm sat there, and there's no heating, it's dark, the light's not really there, there's this old wood. And he says, Mr. and Mrs. Jafri, we have a problem with Sacha. And I'm sat there just going, oh my God, what's happening, right?
Did you have any idea?
No clue. I had no clue. Just you come to the headmaster's office, and my parents are there, and I'm like, oh God. They say, we've got a problem with Sacha. Half the teachers at the school think he's mad. And half the teachers think he's a genius. And so my mum went, oh my God, our son's mad. And my dad went, so our son's a genius, what's the problem? What's the problem? So that, which is very typical of my parents, right? And the headmaster—
You had a good balance at home. Huh?
Yeah, right, there was both sides. So the headmaster was really serious, right? And my dad went, well, look, what do you want to do? Because it's your school, it's meant to be the best school in the world. He's with you, we trust you. What's your plan? So the headmaster said, okay, fair enough. You're right, it's our responsibility. So first, my dad said, do you want to keep Sacha or not? And they said, yeah, we want to keep him, but we just don't know what to do with him, but we want to keep him. And he said, okay, fine, so come up with a plan. So they said, okay, you're right, give us 2 weeks, we'll come up with something. 2 weeks later, called us back in. This is cutting a long story short, right? But 2 weeks later, and they said, okay, we've come up with an idea. And this changed my life, this moment. So they gave me a porter cabin. You know what I mean by a porter cabin? It's like when you build a building, you build this little thing on the side for the builders to have their tea and put out the maps, and right. So at Eton, it's built like a university. It's across an entire town, and each building is for a different subject. So you've got maths, English, French, geography, history, art, and then
Sacha's porter cabin,
right? And each building is called the art school, the geography school, right? So the art school is this huge thing, and then next to it, they put this porter cabin. I can't tell you a square foot, but let's say 150 square feet. So not tiny, like a decent size. And they said, we're going to give Sacha this porter cabin. We're going to give him the key. No one else will have the key. We're going to put canvas, easel, and paintbrush and paints in there. And we don't care what you do in there. We don't care if you're there all night. We don't care what happens in there. As long as you're at chapel first thing in the morning and you're at every lesson of the day, we don't care what happens. And that moment, like talking about it now, I just feel this because it changed my life. It was like, so I was in there till 5, 6 in the morning. I was painting all day. And the fact they would know to do that. Right? And from there, I went to art school. And then Oxford, and then became an artist. But it was that moment. Because when I was painting, I don't paint because I want to. Sometimes I hate it. It's like, it's like I paint because I have to. And I will have to paint till I die. I mean, you ask anyone in my life, if I haven't painted for 2 weeks, I become very difficult. I just become very like, I'm not connected to what's in front of me and emotionally. And
Did you paint today?
No.
Oh dear.
No, I didn't. Anything could happen.
Uh-oh.
So yeah, it's an interesting journey.
Welcome to society.
Thank you,
so
sir.
much.
We're so good. Happy to be here. Good to see you.
Wow, this looks amazing.
Octopus
Wow.
to share with fresh vegetables.
I don't know if Sasha will share with me. He's
I'm
very
not
hungry.
sharing. I'm
He's
not
very hungry. Please enjoy.
Bon appetit.
Bon appetit. So now that we've eaten a bit, we can dive deeper.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I want to hear about your move to Dubai, your first visit to Dubai. See, the way I see you and your story, you were living a very interesting life in London, friendly with Prince William. I know you, I don't know, friends or just have as clients people like Sir Richard Branson, Elton John, Ed Sheeran.
Yeah, slightly crazy sort of.
What brings a guy, a young artist, first of all, in 1999 to visit
First
Dubai,
time, yeah.
to visit Dubai for the first time, and then ultimately to move here in 2005?
I had my journey as an artist, and I had a call from a guy, a curator called Rudolf Budger, and he runs the Budger Gallery, which is Miami, Vienna, Salzburg, a few other places. One in London, I think he's got one in Singapore, and he specializes in that sort of 1960s to late 70s pop art movement, mainly in the US. The times of Warhol, Rauschenberg, all those sort of guys. And he was putting together a lost Andy Warhol collection. So during Warhol's career and life, he used to gift, as a lot of those guys did, as Picasso did, as Monet did, Manet did. He used to gift his paintings to people, to lovers, to friends, to acquaintances, business partners, and he'd gift paintings, and they weren't always catalogued. And most of Warhol's work, are prints, they're editions, whereas these were actual hand-painted pieces from Warhol. And they were found over the years, and this guy, Rudolf Budger, put this collection together of never before seen Warhol originals from various people around the world. And he wanted to do a world tour.
So Jafri Warhol,
Jafri Warhol.
how does that bring you to
All right.
Dubai?
So this guy, he reaches out, he says, hey, I've got a lost Warhol collection. I want to do it with your latest collection. And we call it Jafri Meets Warhol, and we want to do a world tour.
Isn't that a huge honor?
It was huge.
Huge.
It was the biggest thing ever. He could have asked at the time Damien Hirst, Mark Quinn, Tracy Emin, who else was around then? Anish Kapoor, Jeff Koons.
Why do you think he asked you?
Right? No idea. I think I don't know, but I was quite outspoken. I was very against the shock art movement. I was very against pop art. I was very against commercial art. And I was very vocal. And I was very much like, Jeff Koons, load of nonsense. Damien Hirst, load of nonsense. Art has to come from here. It has to mean this. It has to, you know what I mean? So he was like, okay, this is interesting. We've got this guy who's anti-pop art, who's anti this whole commercial movement. And then we've got Warhol, the commercialist. If we put them together, what will it look and feel like? It's either going to be awful or it could be interesting. So
well, it's very colorful, that's for sure.
Yeah, my work's very colorful. He's more about, it's a different thing. But so we had the world tour, and the royal family of Sharjah actually reached out and said, we would love to show this in the museum. At the time, it was the only museum in the UAE, the MOMIMA, Museum of Modern and Islamic Art, set up by His Highness Sheikh Sultan Al-Kazimi. And His Highness is known to be a great scholar, a great architect, a great lover of the arts, culture, with his two daughters, Sheikha Badur and Sheikha Hur, who run the literal side, the artistic side. It's a very, rich cultural emirate. And that's where it was, Jafri Meets Warhol. And then it came to Dubai, and it went to Singapore, and it went to London, it went to Vienna. And it was an amazing tour. And that's when I met first the Al-Kazimi family and Sheikha Badur. It's one of the first people I met. And we became great friends, and we've stayed great friends since. And then I had an invite to do a 10-year retrospective a couple of years later at the museum. And then I had an invite to do a show in Dubai. And that was probably 2003, the big show in Dubai. And that, again, at the time was opened by the royal family, and it was
this beautiful event at the Grand Hyatt.
What are you seeing? Like, how are you feeling visiting Dubai? 99, 2003 looks different.
Very different.
It does.
I loved it. I loved Dubai in 2000 and in 2003. It was that place where you come off the plane and it smelled different. It's like when you go to Marrakesh or you go, you know, there's that smell, and I loved it. You come to Dubai because you have 200 nationalities living together in harmony. There's no other place in the world where that happens.
Why did you come? Why did you come to Dubai?
The world was moving east. So the markets were moving to the Middle East and the Far East. And and in the last few years, there's been a massive power shift towards the Middle East and the Far East. And so I knew that if I could position a studio in Dubai or in the UAE or in the Middle East, this would look after the Middle East and the Far East with regards to clients. And then obviously thanks to Emirates and Dubai airports, Dubai became one of the busiest airports in the world. One of the most transit flights come through Dubai in the world. So you've got people transiting through, connecting to my studio from all over the world, but more specifically the Middle East and the Far East. So geographically, it started making a lot of sense.
So it started with the feeling?
Yes.
And then it made sense also from a practical logistics standpoint.
Logistics and practicality, exactly.
And quite early.
Yeah, very, very early.
Yeah. So let's talk about your big projects. I think COVID was a big year. Well, it was like more like 2-3 years, but a big moment for you. You set off on Journey of Humanity, which took you nearly a year to complete.
Yeah.
And you're in the Guinness Book of World Records thanks to that.
That was cool.
Before you go into the specific project, I do want to ask, how do you get to such enormous projects like, okay, this was your own initiative, but after that, working with NASA, working with UNESCO, working with Rolls-Royce.
Yeah.
These things don't just happen.
You know, you're right, and it's weird, and I haven't really thought about it much, but I think people ask me, and that makes me think about it. And I think it's been a gradual, you know, I've been painting 27 years. It's a long time to not do anything else. So I've not done anything except paint for 27 years. That's a long time, right? So I think after a while of dedicating your entire existence to that one thing, when you get lucky and you break it into, you know, that way where I've got to, you sort of step up, and each time something's got to be bigger and better and, you know, more mind-blowing. So I think it's happened by accident in that I've surrendered, I've poured my heart and soul into something, and I think because it's come from a place of intention, it's snowballed and it's gone around the world, and then that gets attention, and then you get people like Rolls-Royce coming to you, UNESCO coming to you and saying, hey, we want to achieve something. This is what's in our mind. What can you bring to help this happen? Can we collaborate? Can we partner? Can we do something together? And I like working with people like that. You know, I did a huge piece with Disney. I did a huge piece with Rolls-Royce, some of the top brands of the world. And at first, it's very difficult because they're very protected brands. You know, like Rolls-Royce has become an adjective. You say the Rolls-Royce of fridges, the Rolls-Royce of ovens, the Rolls-Royce of vases. It's actually now an adjective in the English language. You can't get stronger than that as a brand. I can't think of many other brands that are now an adjective. So it's synonymous. It's like with Nike. You know, it's so
how does a
powerful.
brand like Rolls-Royce, and it was the 6-element series.
They've never worked with an artist before to create a collection in their 148-year history. First time ever. They've never created a co-branded Rolls-Royce. So it had my logo on the side. It was the first ever NFT embedded into the glove box of the car. I hand painted the whole dashboard. We designed the car together with the top designers in Goodwood.
So why do you think they did reach out to you?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I guess, I don't know. I'd like to believe that if you pour your heart into what you do and you constantly question your intentions, constantly, because I'm constantly trying to get myself back to pure intention, because I know if you get 5 guys to dip a brush into a pot of paint and they do a stroke on a canvas, exactly the same width brush, exactly the same paint, exactly the same stroke, you hold those 5 strokes up and look at them. They will all look different because they will emit a different energy to do with the intentions with which they were laid.
When do you think you were first recognized in a big way as an artist?
Well, I was really lucky. Aged 22, doing a show in the Bermondsey Street Gallery in London. And Madonna and Guy Ritchie walk in, and Madonna buys 8 paintings. About a week later, Kevin Spacey, who at the time was not in the bad books, he walked in and he bought a lot of paintings.
I want to understand, because you're not someone who will just sell. You're not a person who's transactional. So
Yeah.
are these all your friends? Are your friends with
No, it was really
Madonna,
weird.
Guy Ritchie,
It was
Barack
weird.
Obama?
No, I mean, they became friends later, yes. And then the same with other sort of Hollywood actors walking in and buying my work. That did give me some, what's the word, like optics or whatever you call it, exposure.
Major attention and exposure.
Right, yeah. And I got very lucky. And I think that was when I sort of went off the line a bit, you know, as you do on your journey. I've been painting 27 years, and on that journey, I've sometimes gone off piste and off course. And I think you do when you get that attention. You get a bit lost in what's important. You do follow the shiny object. And I did, I'm sure. And then I sort of, you know, you come back to what matters, but it takes effort. It takes self-questioning. It takes sometimes hitting a bit of a wall, a creative wall. And then you realize, I'm hitting this creative wall because I'm not focusing on living a life of grace. I'm not in a state of surrender. I'm not borrowing a moment. And therefore, what's coming to me is rubbish and it's being forced. And that happened a bit on that journey, which is why I can sort of talk now from knowing what works and what doesn't.
But older and wiser.
Yeah, I know what's important and what isn't as an artist.
You also had an artwork based off of David Beckham's fingerprint, if I read correctly.
I did a painting.
How does that happen?
That was a long time ago as well. See, I forget, I did some really big stuff in, I guess, between 2002 and 2010. Big stuff. So I did the painting to celebrate David Beckham's career, which was the first and only ever footprint of David Beckham's on a canvas. And this is at the height of his career. This is like when he's captaining England, when he's a god, right? And it was amazing. You know, he puts his foot in paint, he puts it on the canvas, then I create this painting celebrating his life. Then I was commissioned to do a painting to celebrate 25 years of the English Premier League football, which is one of the biggest brands in the world, you know, the Premier League. Did a painting to celebrate 10 years of the Lion King, which was a beautiful thing to have done. And then a sculpture, an elephant sculpture, outside the Lyceum Theatre in Covent Garden. Did a commission to celebrate the life of Nelson Mandela, Muhammad Ali, some amazing, Roger Federer. Did a tennis painting for Wimbledon, celebrating the careers of the 5 greatest tennis players. So you had Serena Williams, Rafa Nadal, Djokovic, Federer, and Sir Andy Murray. And it was that decade of tennis, it was actually 20 years of tennis, when only one of those 5 won 98% of all majors globally.
You were talking about entrepreneurs who failed and rebuild and fail and rebuild.
Yeah.
Do you think you need to fail as an artist in order to succeed as well?
I think you're constantly failing as an artist. I think that's important because the thing about being an artist, which I think people don't necessarily realize, it is a black hole of insecurity, constant. So you are covered, basically, you are given, if you're like a real artist, because there's a lot of nonsense, right? But if you're real about it, you have a blank canvas with nothing on it. And you're presented with a blank canvas with nothing on it every time you start. That's a very difficult place to start. It doesn't matter what skills you have, what background you have, what history you have, that canvas is blank. You've got to somehow create something meaningful in this world. That's really difficult. And if you're not questioning yourself, if you're not full of insecurities, if you're not feeling very extreme emotions on your life, that canvas is going to not have much to it. So I think it does help if you hit those quite dark moments, you hit those walls, you have those emotional difficulties.
Do you still get that?
Yeah, sure. And I think from it, at the time, it's very hard. But when you come out of it, I always come out creating. And that's what sort of, I guess, shown the chapters of my career as an artist. Every 3 or 4 years, you can see something special was made, but it came out of a darker place. And from the darkness comes the light.
Do you have a dream?
So I've done like these huge global projects recently, right? And it's been one after the other, after the other, after the other, and it's been insane. First artwork on the moon, UNESCO 50 World Heritage Sites for their 50th anniversary.
I mean,
First
where do you
ever
go
Rolls
after
Royce.
the moon?
It's insane.
Where are you going?
And it's just been one after the other after the other. And so, interestingly, and I think this is important for me, I've sort of hit this like point of exhaustion, to be honest, like this sort of just constantly laying out. And I sort of hit this, I guess, a low energy point.
You know, you're Sacha Jafri. We expect you to
Yeah.
place it at the bottom of the ocean, right? Where
I think the idea with that collection, it'll be a collection of, I don't know, maybe 12, maybe 20 pieces. It'll take a long time. It'll be about really focusing on that emotion and how does it look and feel? And how does empathy and compassion really feel?
Do you feel you are recognized as a great artist or the way you'd like to be?
No, because I would like to be recognized on the same level as Van Gogh, on the same level as Michelangelo, Da Vinci. And I'd say Picasso is not even on that level. So until I'm in that level, I'm nowhere near the legacy I want to be. So I don't expect people to be seeing me on that level yet, but I got another 70 years to get there.
Doing one thing.
Yeah, just really, you know, just creating magic. And I think if you've got that legacy, that ambition, and you're very focused about it, it's definitely possible. But you've got to keep bringing yourself back to where is it coming from, what matters, and what is distracting. What is distracting that, you achieving that?
Well, Sacha, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you. Always so fun catching up and hearing about how you got here. And it sounds like you're not going anywhere.
No, great to see you, Michelle.
You too.
Thank you.